My name is Lisa DeMarco, 31 years old. Saturday mornings at the Riverside Country Club have always been Dad's holy ritual. 9 holes of golf cigars and the subtle art of comparing children's achievements. I'd spent the last 8 months dodging his invitations, but this morning he called at dawn, his voice trembling with a tone I couldn't refuse. "Please, Lisa," he said. "Mr. Davidson keeps asking about you. Just join us this once." So here I am standing in the first tee at 8:15 a.m., wearing a borrowed polo and khaki shorts that make me look like every other obedient offspring in this place. The air smells of manicured grass and old money. Dad's friends are already there. Mr. Davidson, silver-haired and self-satisfied. Mr. Chen, whose family owns half of downtown. And Dr. Williams, the heart surgeon, who likes to remind everyone he's operated on senators. Dad greets them like royalty, his laughter a little too loud, his shoulders too stiff. Then with a flourish, he gestures toward me. "Gentlemen, you remember my daughter Lisa." Mr. Davidson's smile is polite, almost practiced. "Of course. How's the job search coming along, dear?" And there it is, the question that turns every breakfast, every phone call, every silence between Dad and me into a battlefield. Before I can answer, Dad rushes in with his rehearsed line. She's taking her time finding the right opportunity, being selective about her next move. Selective, that's what he calls it. The word rolls off his tongue like an apology wrapped in pride. Mr. Chin nods sagely. Smart. No shame in staying home until something opens up. The market's brutal right now for recent graduates. Recent graduates. I'm 31 with a PhD in quantum systems from MIT. But sure, let's pretend I'm 22 and lost. Actually, Dad's hand finds my shoulder, squeezing gently. Lisa's been doing some consulting work lately, he cuts in, keeping her options open. Consulting. That's one way to describe running a quantum energy company on the brink of revolutionizing the power grid. Dr. Williams lifts his club. If you're interested in healthcare administration, I have connections at Presbyterian Hospital. Stable hours. Great benefits. I manage a small smile. That's generous, doctor. But I'm focused on the energy sector. Energy Davidson arches a skeptical brow. Tough field. Hard to break into without the right connections. Maybe try something entry-level first. Entry-level. My company just received federal clearance for technology that could change how entire nations store power. But yes, let's discuss internships. Dad clears his throat, trying to hold his composure. She's always been interested in science. We're hoping she finds something stable while she figures out her long-term goals. Long-term goals, like building a $4 billion company from scratch. Mr. Chin adjusts his glove. The key is managing expectations. Young people today always dreaming too big. You need to be realistic. Realistic? That word has followed me like a curse. I nod politely, but inside my pulse quickens. They think they're being kind, helpful, fatherly. They don't realize every word cuts a little deeper. Dr. Williams adds cheerfully, "Find something steady first, then pursue your passions as hobbies later." A hobby. I swallow a bitter laugh. Last week I was on a conference call with the Secretary of Energy. I suppose that counts as a hobby now. She understands that Dad insists. His voice trembles with that mix of love and embarrassment only parents can master. She's practical. I look at him. My father, the man who taught me to measure twice before cutting once, who built this careful life on rules and reputation. He's terrified I'll break it. Image matters, Mr. Davidson says, lining up his swing. It's all about presentation. I glance at my reflection in the polished silver of my club. A modest ponytail, thrift store, sunglasses, no jewelry. I look ordinary, and for once I like it that way. But to them, I look like failure wrapped in politeness. As they move to the second hole, Dad leans close. "Just smile and play along," he whispers. "You'll thank me later." I smile, but it's the kind of smile that hides lightning behind calm clouds. Because they think they're here to teach me about success. And they have no idea they're spending the morning giving career advice to the woman who's already rewriting the rules of their world. If only they knew what I'd built while they were teaching me how to stand taller. The second tee feels longer than it should. Every step on the pristine green echoes like a drumbeat of restraint. I can't let my irritation show, not here, not in front of Dad's friends. His entire reputation in this little kingdom of manicured lawns and silk smiles depends on me pretending to be a project he's still fixing. Mr. Davidson eyes me kindly as he tees up. "Lisa, have you considered updating your LinkedIn? I took a peek last week." Nothing recent, no photo either. Of course he did. Of course Dad told them I was job hunting. I force a pleasant tone. I prefer to keep a low profile online. Davidson chuckles. Understandable. But employers these days want to see initiative. A professional headshot, some activity. It shows you're serious. I nod like a good student while remembering the last time I updated that profile. Within 24 hours, I had over 2,000 messages, journalists, investors, startups, begging for partnerships. My assistant begged me to take it down. Beside us, Dad is watching me like a hawk, hoping I won't embarrass him. His fingers tighten around his golf club every time I pause too long. Dr. Williams chimes in. You know, I have a friend on the hiring board at the Energy Commission. Could help get your resume noticed. Thank you, doctor, I say evenly. But I'm not actually looking for a traditional position. Davidson tilts his head. So, freelance? Something like that. Dad cuts in again, eager to shape the narrative. She's just doing short-term consulting, testing different industries before committing. Consulting. That word again. I can't tell if it's meant to protect me or to save him from embarrassment. We move down the fairway in silence. The sun beats down, making the air shimmer. My father's friends talk among themselves, stocks, renovations, travel, but my mind drifts back to the nights I spent in my modest warehouse apartment, surrounded by humming servers and prototype reactors. 3 years of risking everything. 3 years of rejection letters, failed tests, breakthroughs that made me cry on the lab floor. I remember calling Dad once, telling him about a potential investor, and hearing his weary sigh on the other end. Maybe, sweetheart, he'd said gently, but maybe you should start smaller. Get experience first. Start smaller. It wasn't meant cruelly, but it hit like a door closing. After that, I stopped calling. Mr. Chen's voice breaks my thoughts. Patience, Lisa. That's what it takes. My niece took 2 years to find her footing after college. She's in marketing now, doing fine. Just takes time. I smile thinly. I'm glad she's doing well. He pats my shoulder like a kind uncle. You'll get there too. You're young. You'll get there. As if I haven't already arrived, just in a place too far above their horizon for them to see. Dad laughs awkwardly. You know Lisa always chasing big ideas. She gets that from you, Dr. Williams says warmly. Dad forces a modest grin. Maybe too much. And there it is, the line that stings more than any insult could. Maybe too much. As if ambition were an illness I caught from him that he now regrets. I glance at him. His profile is sharp against the sun, older than I remember. There's a faint tremor in his hand when he lifts his cup of water. For a second, the irritation fades. He's not cruel, just scared. Scared I'll fail and make him look foolish. Scared I'll succeed and leave him behind. We finish the hole. Mr. Davidson gestures toward me with his club. You know I could make a few calls. Get you into an entry-level analyst role somewhere reputable. Energy firms love fresh minds. Entry-level. That word has followed me like a ghost. I can almost hear the hum of my company's prototype reactor in my memory, the soft blue light of quantum cells reflecting off the glass walls I designed myself. Fresh mind, they say. If only they knew how much of that mind has already been spent changing everything they think they understand. I inhale deeply, keeping my smile intact. That's very kind, Mr. Davidson. I'll think about it. Good Dad says quickly, his tone bright with relief, as if I've finally accepted help. We walk toward the next tee, the sound of golf carts humming softly in the distance. Mr. Chen pulls out his phone to check a stock alert, squinting at the screen. He glances at me absently. Lisa DeMarco, right? M-O-R-G-A-N. I nod. He types something into his phone, scrolling as he mutters, DeMarco, energy. I look away before he can see the flicker of panic in my eyes. Because if he presses the wrong link, if he scrolls just one page too far, my carefully built facade will shatter in an instant. By the fourth hole, I've learned something about politeness. It's the sharpest blade when it's wielded by people who truly mean well. Mr. Davidson takes off his cap and wipes his forehead, looking pleased with himself. You know what might help you? Lisa? A few introductions. My friend Mark Thompson runs a small renewable energy consultancy. Nothing fancy, but perfect for someone starting out. He's always looking for bright people. I open my mouth to stop him, but Dad's eyes light up. That's an excellent idea, he says quickly. Mark's well connected. Great environment for learning the ropes. Learning the ropes. My jaw tightens, but I force a polite nod. That's really not necessary. Nonsense, Mr. Davidson waves me off as if he's offering me a lifeline. He's a good mentor. Sometimes one person believing in you is all it takes. He pulls out his phone. Mr. Davidson, really? But Dad interrupts, his tone hopeful, almost pleading. Just let him call Lisa. Networking matters. You'll thank us later. Networking. That word again, so harmless, so painfully ironic. I spend half my week on calls with senators, investors, and scientists who shape global policy. Yet here I am watching a man dial his friend to rescue me from imagined unemployment. Davidson's phone is already ringing. My heart pounds not from fear of exposure, but from something worse, pity. They think they're saving me. Mark, hey, Bill here, he says cheerfully into the phone. Listen, I've got someone for that junior analyst opening. Brilliant young woman, MIT grad, just needs the right opportunity. Dad beams proud. See, things are already turning around. The world blurs for a second heat. Shimmering on the fairway, the distant whir of sprinklers, the hum of cicadas. The absurdity of it all almost makes me laugh. Mr. Chen pauses mid-swing. Wait, he says slowly, turning toward me. What did you say your last name was again? DeMarco. He frowns. You look familiar. Dad chuckles nervously. She has one of those faces. People say that all the time. But Mr. Chen isn't listening. He's already pulling out his phone, typing with sudden urgency. Lisa DeMarco, he mutters energy. MIT. I freeze. My pulse quickens, every instinct screaming, don't interfere. Any denial now would only confirm it. Davidson is still talking into his phone, blissfully unaware. Yes, she's right here. Lovely young lady. Quantum something? She'll learn quick. Yes, send the application form. Dr. Williams nods approvingly. That's the kind of proactive support young people need. You're lucky, Lisa. Lucky. I glance at Dad. His expression is glowing with relief, as if this one call might finally restore his image among his successful friends. Mr. Chen stops typing. His face goes still color draining. Bill, he says sharply. Hang up. Davidson laughs. What? Hang up the phone. The tone freezes everyone mid-motion. Dad frowns confused. Is something wrong? Chen looks at me, then at his phone, then back again like he's piecing together a ghost story in real time. His hands tremble slightly. Lisa, he says quietly, what company did you say you worked for? I didn't. He swallows hard and turns his phone toward them. The sunlight catches the screen for a moment before I see their faces change. Dad's brows furrow. Dr. Williams leans closer and Davidson lowers his phone slowly. On the screen glows a CNBC headline. Lisa DeMarco, CEO of Lyra Dynamics, signs $4.2 billion federal energy contract. The world seems to stop breathing. Davidson's phone slips from his hand and lands softly in the grass. Dr. Williams blinks, then whispers, That's you. I take a quiet breath. Yes, I say simply, that's me. The silence that follows is heavier than thunder. Dad turns toward me, his face pale as marble. His mouth opens, but no sound comes out. His golf club slides from his grip, hitting the ground with a hollow clatter. I look at him, not triumphant, not smug, just tired. Because this isn't revenge, it's revelation. The truth was always here, waiting beneath their pity. And now it's finally found its voice. The stillness that follows is absolute. Even the wind seems to hush as though the entire golf course has stopped to listen. The only sound is the soft thud of Dad's club as it rolls onto the grass. Mr. Davidson stares at me, mouth slightly open. You're the one from the news, the quantum, what was it? Quantum energy storage, I finish for him quietly. Lyra Dynamics. We focus on sustainable power grid modernization. Dr. Williams is scrolling furiously on his phone now, muttering to himself. CNBC. Forbes. Wait, Forbes. 30 under 30 times most influential. Good Lord. Mr. Chen lowers his phone and exhales like he's been holding his breath for a century. Bill, you just tried to get the CEO of Lyra Dynamics a job as a junior analyst. Davidson blinks. That can't be right. I look at him evenly. You were very kind to offer. Really. The absurdity sinks in slowly. The men exchange glances first, disbelief, then realization, then the quiet mortification that only comes when the truth burns through pride. Dad's face, though, is the hardest to watch. His expression flickers from confusion to shock to something almost painful, like someone watching a puzzle solve itself in front of him, only to realize he'd been holding the missing piece all along. Lisa, he says, finally his voice barely above a whisper. When you said you were doing consulting work, I wasn't lying. I meet his eyes, just not in the way you thought. Mr. Chen starts laughing softly, though in disbelief. Consulting work. You've been running one of the fastest growing companies in the energy sector, while we've been giving you entry-level advice. Dr. Williams shakes his head, half amused, half ashamed, and I told her to get a mentor. Dad looks stricken. You own the company. The one from the president's speech last week. I nod. I built it from nothing. 3 years ago, it was just me and 2 engineers working out of a rented warehouse. Davidson rubs a hand over his face. Your father said you were figuring out your direction. I reply softly. I just figured out how to change the world in the process. No one speaks. The weight of those words hovers between us like static. Finally, Dr. Williams finds his voice. Yesterday's announcement was that your company's deal with the Department of Energy, yes, will be overseeing nationwide grid modernization, a $4.2 billion contract. Mr. Chen lets out a low whistle, and your personal stake. 73%, I answer without hesitation. Davidson does the math in his head, then sits down heavily on the edge of the bench. You're worth, what, 4, maybe 5 billion? I shrug slightly, depending on today's market. Dad sinks beside him, silent. His fingers dig into the edge of the bench as if to ground himself. I can see his mind replaying every moment, every dinner, where I spoke vaguely about projects, every time he reassured his friends that I was still searching, every time I bit my tongue instead of correcting him. Lisa, he says slowly, why didn't you tell me? There it is, the question I'd been waiting for, the one that hurts most. I take a breath. Because every time I tried to talk about my work, you thought I was being unrealistic. Remember when I mentioned patent filings, you told me not to waste money on pipe dreams. His eyes widen slightly. The patents, those were yours? Yes, Mr. Chen interrupts softly. You mean those revolutionary quantum storage patents, the ones half the industry's been trying to license? I nod again. Those. Dr. Williams lets out a long, stunned sigh. I feel like I've been living under a rock. For the first time, I laugh a quiet, genuine sound that surprises even me. You weren't under a rock, doctor. You were just looking in the wrong direction. Davidson shakes his head, still processing. I called my friend Mark Thompson, he mutters. His firm licenses your technology. I literally tried to get you an entry-level job at a company that pays you. The absurdity breaks the tension. Mr. Chen bursts into laughter, real laughter, this time the kind that shakes the stiffness out of the air. Dr. Williams joins in, half laughing, half groaning. Dad, though, doesn't laugh. He looks at me, eyes bright with something fragile, shock, pride, and the faintest trace of shame. All this time, he murmurs, I thought I was protecting you from disappointment. Turns out I was just too small-minded to see what you'd become. I step closer, kneeling, so we're eye to eye. You weren't small-minded, Dad. You were scared. You wanted me to have security, but you forgot I wasn't looking for safety. I was building something worth the risk. He swallows hard. And you did it, without my help. With your example, I say gently, you taught me persistence. You just didn't expect me to use it on a scale this big. His laugh is shaky but real. Guess I didn't. The others stay silent, watching something sacred unfold. Mr. Davidson finally speaks, rubbing the back of his neck. Lisa, I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything, I say. You meant well. So did everyone here. Dr. Williams grins wryly. Well, at least I can say I once gave career advice to a billionaire. That earns a round of hesitant laughter. Even Dad smiles faintly. For a moment, everything feels lighter, like the truth once spoken made room for air again. The morning sun breaks through a thin veil of clouds, casting gold light across the course. The breeze returns, gentle and forgiving. Dad exhales and murmurs half to himself. My daughter. The woman who changed the world, and I almost introduced her as unemployed. I smile softly. Then maybe it's time we reintroduce each other. For a long time, none of us move. The quiet stretches between us, heavy, but strangely peaceful, as if the truth itself has drained the air of all pretense. Dad finally speaks, his voice softer than I've ever heard it. All those months, I've been apologizing for you, making excuses. I told everyone you were just taking your time. I thought I was protecting your dignity. I smile faintly, and I thought I was protecting yours. That makes him look up. His eyes, so often stern, full of silent judgment, are now tired human. When did we start protecting each other from the truth? I don't answer immediately. Instead, I remember how he used to walk me to the library every Saturday when I was little, carrying my science kits and calling me his little inventor, how he beamed when I got into MIT, and how slowly that pride turned into worry. How he started saying things like, be practical, or don't aim too high. I finally whisper, maybe when you stopped believing my dreams could work. He flinches but doesn't look away. You're right. I did stop believing. You were talking about quantum reactors and energy grids before you were even 25. I thought it was too much for one person. It was, I admit, but I did it anyway. He laughs once dry, disbelieving. You really did. Mr. Chen clears his throat. For what it's worth, Lisa, I think every parent here would have made the same mistake. It's easier to assume our children need saving than to admit they've surpassed us. Dad gives a shaky laugh. You can say that again. Mr. Davidson leans forward, his earlier arrogance gone. We weren't mocking you, Lisa. We genuinely thought you were lost. Everything we said. I know I interrupt gently, and that's what made it hurt. Kindness can bruise just as deeply as cruelty when it's pointed at the wrong wound. The wind shifts, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and sunblock. Dr. Williams breaks the silence with a nervous chuckle. You have to admit, though, this will be one hell of a story to tell at the clubhouse. Davidson groans, covering his face with both hands. Please no, my ego can't handle it. Even Dad laughs at that, a soft, embarrassed sound. But then his laughter fades and his eyes find mine again, sincere, now stripped of pride. When your mother passed, he begins quietly, I promised myself I'd keep you safe. I thought success would come from stability, not risk. When you started chasing ideas I didn't understand, I was terrified I'd lose you to disappointment, or worse, to failure. I feel my throat tighten, and instead you lost me to silence. He nods slowly, the truth settling between us like dust. I should have asked what you were building instead of assuming you'd broken something. I reach for his hand, squeezing it. You didn't fail me, Dad. You just didn't see me clearly, but I never stopped wanting you to. His hand trembles. I see you now. Behind us, the others have gone quiet. Even the occasional clink of golf clubs in the distance feels far away. Dr. Williams finally says with a wry grin, You know, if humility were a tournament, we'd all be losing today. That breaks the tension. Laughter ripples through the group again, awkward human cleansing. Davidson wipes at his eyes. I told you to update your LinkedIn profile, he says, chuckling at himself. Turns out you're the reason half my stock portfolio is booming. Glad I could help, I say dryly. Mr. Chen shakes his head. The irony still kills me. I told you to find a mentor while your board includes 2 Nobel laureates. Dad sighs, finally standing. You know what I told everyone last month, that I was worried about my daughter's future. He pauses, looking at me with pride so raw it almost feels unfamiliar. Now I realize you are the future. The words hang in the air, soft and trembling. I feel something loosen inside me, a knot I didn't realize I'd been carrying since I was 23, and desperate for him to just believe. I smile through the sting in my eyes. It took you long enough to notice. He grins. I'm an old man. Be patient with me. I think I've got plenty of practice at that, I tease lightly. The group begins to gather their clubs, the tension dissolving into gentle camaraderie. Even the sunlight feels warmer now, less like scrutiny and more like grace. As we walk toward the next hole, Dr. Williams says to no one in particular, You know all those times we told our kids to aim lower. Maybe we should have told them to aim like Lisa. Dad glances at me, smiling with quiet pride. No, he says softly. They wouldn't survive it. We all laugh again, genuine this time. And for the first time all morning I feel weightless. Not because I've proven them wrong, but because I've finally been seen. The world feels different now, lighter, but sharper too. The air hums with something new respect. Not the forced kind that comes with titles or headlines, but the kind that comes from finally being understood. As we walk toward the 6th tee, the 4 men stay uncharacteristically quiet. Dad carries his clubs. Shoulders relaxed for the first time in months. I can almost see the burden lifting from him, years of quiet worry replaced by awe. Mr. Davidson breaks the silence first. Well, he says with a sheepish grin, that's a first. I've never had to apologize to a billionaire before. I laugh softly. You'd be surprised how often that happens. Dr. Williams chuckles. And here I was telling you to be confident in interviews. I might need that advice myself the next time I present at a board meeting. Mr. Chen shakes his head in disbelief. I told you to be patient, he mutters, and you were just not in the way any of us could have imagined. Dad laughs, genuine laughter this time, no trace of strain. Gentlemen, I think it's fair to say we've all learned something today. Yes, Mr. Davidson agrees. Never underestimate quiet people, especially the ones who let you finish your bad advice without interrupting, I add, smiling. They all laugh again. The tension that had built up like static over the morning has finally broken, replaced by easy warmth. Dad looks at me, his eyes glistening in the sunlight. I don't think I've ever been this proud and this embarrassed at the same time. I grin. Pride looks better on you than worry. He exhales a shaky laugh. You know, when your mother was alive, she used to say you had lightning in you. I didn't understand what she meant until now. The mention of Mom hits me softly like a cool breeze. She believed in me, I whisper. She did, he nods. And I should have trusted her instinct instead of my fear. I place my hand on his arm. You did what parents do, you tried to protect me from pain. But pain was the teacher I needed. He looks at me for a long moment, then nods slowly. Then maybe today was mine. We stand there quietly for a few seconds, father and daughter, no longer teacher and student, but equals. Mr. Davidson clears his throat, looking down the green. So, shall we finish the round? Dad glances at me, smiling faintly. Only if you promise not to buy the country club afterward. I smirk, no promises. Dr. Williams bursts out laughing so hard he nearly drops his putter. She's got your humor, Richard. Just sharper. We resume playing, but the conversation has shifted. No more talk of job hunting or resumes, only questions about energy, innovation, sustainable design, and what comes next. They ask out of curiosity now, not condescension. And I answer not to impress, but to share. As the sun begins to lower, turning the grass gold, I realize how much has changed in a single morning. These men who once pitied me now look at me with something deeper than wonder. Dad finishes his putt, then walks over, resting his hand on my shoulder. You know, he says next Saturday maybe you can invite me to one of your meetings. I'd like to see this empire you've built. I grin. You might need a security clearance for that. He chuckles. Then I'll settle for lunch. Deal. We walk toward the clubhouse together. The others lag behind, still talking, still laughing. But I can tell they'll never look at him or me the same way again. As we near the cart path, Dad glances back at the horizon. Lisa, he says softly, I've been spending so long trying to prove my daughter's worth. I never realized she'd already proven mine by who she became. The words sink deep, and for once I don't have anything clever to say. I just smile, blinking against the bright light. We finish the round not as a father and his struggling daughter, but as two people finally seeing each other clearly for the first time. As we leave the course, I look back one last time. The sun flares over the green like a golden promise, and for the first time in years, I feel no need to hide who I am. Because this quiet morning of humiliation turned revelation wasn't about proving myself. It was about coming home.